So, I have a confession. Lately, I've been feeling depressed. And don't get me wrong, I'm happy, but also I'm sad. I know that sounds crazy, it sounds like a contradiction, but that's the reality of how I've been feeling lately. Because I'm living the life I used to pray for. I have the degree, I have the car that starts every morning, I have a steady paycheck, and a roof over my head. By every metric of the American dream, I have sort of made it. But lately, I've just been feeling hollow, empty. It is a strange kind of depression, the kind where you feel guilty for even being sad because you know how many people would kill to be in your shoes. We are living in the wealthiest time in history, in the wealthiest country on earth. Yet I have realized there is a poverty of the soul that no paycheck can ever fix. I am going to tell you why that is in a second, and why the very things we call success are often the things that isolate us the most. But before that, I need to tell you what's actually happening inside me and around me. Because after all, I am your tired, I am your poor, I am one of those huddled masses yearning to breathe free, looking for shelter under the lamp beside the golden door. Coming to America was supposed to be the happiest moment of my life. And it was. It probably still is, but I didn't realize what I was trading away. I traded the physical presence of my family for opportunity. I traded the warmth of my past for the potential of my future. Now when someone dies back where I came from, I can't just go. I can't be at the funeral. I can't hold my mother's hand. I chose this life. Yes, it was me who made that choice, but now I realize that the price of that choice is a permanent sense of being displaced. It is a haunting kind of displacement where the place you left never felt like home, but the place you have arrived, you don't know how to make that home either. And there's this weight in the air lately that I can't quite name. It feels like trying to run a race while the ground beneath me is moving backward. I look at the world and I see a deep systematic friction, as if we're all shouting into wind that only blows harder and harder and harder the more we speak. It is that sense of a shared injustice that makes me feel like no matter how much I build my own small life, the foundation underneath is still trembling. Then I look at the stars and I'm reminded that the universe is expanding at millions of miles per hour. The world is spinning, the news cycle is churning, everyone's on my screen seems to be becoming. And then there's me. I hit my 30s and I realized I'm not where I told my 20-year-old self I would be. It is the cost of ambition, they say. We are taught to keep our eyes on the horizon, but we forget that the horizon moves every time you take a step. I am the eye of a storm that never stops spinning. I am paralyzed by the search for a stability that feels less like a solid ground and more like a memory of a home I never had. And you know what? I tried all the standard cures. I read the productivity blogs. I listened to the high energy podcasts telling me to grind harder. But those things are built for machines, I feel like. Not for people like me who are grieving, who are trying to make sense of all these things happening inside us and around us. I just can't life hack my way out of a broken heart or lost sense of purpose or broken world. I realized I did not need a strategy for success. I needed a philosophy for simply being. Yes, I have had all the material stuff. They all feel like a sugar high to me. I'm searching for the fundamental, not the fleeting. I'm looking for the kind of contentment that does not depend on my bank account or the political climate. Marcus Aurelius called it the inner citadel. It is the idea that your soul should not be a leaf blown by the wind of the world, but the tree that stands firm even if its leaves are stripped bare. A few weeks ago, I decided to do something terrifying. I put my phone in another room, sat in a chair, and just stayed there with no music and no podcasts, no YouTube videos, no distractions. It was just me and my thoughts. At first, It was agonizing. My brain felt like a caged animal, but then I started to realize why I was running. I was running from the reality that there are things in my life that I would never be able to control, no matter how hard I work. And that's when I picked up a book written 2,000 years ago by a man who had everything, who was an emperor. And yet he struggled with the exact same loneliness that we as modern humans are struggling every day of our life. So I started reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and he said something in that book that changed how I looked at my hollow, empty feeling. He said,
"Everywhere at each moment, you have the option to accept this event with piety, to treat these people with justice, and to approach this thought with care."
And then I realized my depression wasn't coming from my circumstances. It was coming from my resilience to them. I was mourning a life I did not have while neglecting the one I did. I felt poor because I was focusing on the debt of what I thought I lost rather than the wealth of my own internal character. I realized I was looking for purpose in the wrong places because Marcus wasn't the only one. I looked to Viktor Frankl, who survived the darkest corners of the history, by realizing that meaning isn't something you find, it is something you give to your circumstances. I realized that my displacement was not a prison. It was a task, it was a sacred duty. And I had to stop asking life why I was here and start answering life with how I was going to leave. I had to learn, as Camus said, to own my rock, to realize that the struggle of being in this in-between place is exactly where my purpose is hidden. I realized I was waiting for the boulder to stay at the top of the hill, waiting for stability. But the meaning isn't at the top. It is in the muscle I built while I'm pushing. The struggle is the point. I'm still in the middle of it all. The universe is still expanding, and I'm still learning how to be okay with standing still. So my message to you would be, if you feel like you're stuck while the galaxy moves around you, remember, roots grow in the dark. And they grow when nothing seems to be happening on the surface. You aren't failing, you are just becoming. Thanks for watching, and stay the course.